Hi everyone, it's Alicia and welcome back to my playwriting series. Today we're going to go over how to format your play. And it may vary depending on if you're submitting to a certain festival, they may ask for a certain format, or you may just come across a certain format that you like, but this is the one that I was taught. And I found that unless something that you're submitting to asks for a certain structure, I find that as long as your structure and format is consistent and clean and looks professional, that most places shouldn't have a problem with you submitting in whatever structure you typically write in, unless again they ask for something specific. A lot of plays nowadays and in playwriting software are adopting formats that look more akin to screenwriting formats where stage directions are written as one side of the page and are spaced to one side of the page and go down, and same thing with structuring character names for dialogue and things. And I personally am not a fan of that. I feel that stage plays and screenplays should look differently as far as format, but I don't know, maybe I'm just old school like that. So this is the format for playwriting that I was taught, that I grew up reading, and feel free to adopt it as your own. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. And here we have the title page. You'll want to have the title spaced about halfway down the page, and it should be underlined and in bold font, and underneath that is the space for you to put that you wrote the play and also any subtitles that you might want. So for instance, as you can see with my page, since this play is based on a novel, a book by Victor Hugo, I have that underneath as the subtitle. And in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see that I have the copyright sign, and you'll want to have that as a footnote on all the pages of your script. Even if you haven't registered your work yet with the copyright offices of your country, you'll want to have that there, especially if you're going to be submitting it to festivals and competitions and things like that. And that's what the title page looks like. And here is the list of the cast of characters. And you will write cast of characters up at the top and center it, underline it, and beneath that, if you want to list the characters in the order that they appear in the script, you can do that, and I've indicated that. And also I've used an asterisk to indicate roles that can be double cast, which means that multiple roles that can be played by the same actor. So for example, Lord Clancharlie and grown-up Gwynplaine are indicated as being played by the same actor because those two roles are father and son, and it would make sense then for the same actor to play both parts. And to describe the characters, you will put the character's name in bold and their gender and age in parentheses next to it, and then you will include a brief description of the character, who they are, how they're related to other characters, any sort of religious or social background information that would be important for the audience to know. And you can also include this as you're introducing characters in the stage directions, but typically it's a good idea to include them in the cast list as well, so that way stage directions aren't weighed down or lengthened out with describing the basics of the characters. And this page is where you'll indicate the time and setting of the play. And this page comes directly after the list of the cast of characters, and it's on its own individual page, and you'll space it right down to the very bottom of the page, and you'll indicate the time and the setting, and line the words time and setting. You underline those words and indicate the information beneath them. So as you can see, I have the time set in England in the early 17th and 18th centuries. And this is what the script format itself looks like. As you can see, what the scene is indicated at the top, underlined in this case. This is the prologue scene of my play, so that's at the top, and stage directions are written in brackets, and they are italicized except for characters' names when it comes to their actions or first introducing them. And I'll have an example of that in a moment. But that's what the stage directions look like, and typically at the top of each scene, especially if it's indicating a new setting, stage directions will be a bit lengthier. But typically, most directors will say that stage directions should be as short and brief as possible and convey only the basic information, because some directors might throw all your stage directions completely out the window and stage things how they want. But I'm not one to ask about stage directions because I've always written too many. In my playwriting classes in college, I would have huge chunks of my stage directions crossed out by my professor, which would drive me crazy because I would always want to indicate the scene exactly as I see it, even though I know a director could do something different with it. So my personal philosophy is write the scene exactly as you see it. Don't get too bogged down with details, but don't be afraid to indicate precise things either, because if it's in brackets or parentheses, it can always be changed or ignored. So you as the playwright have every right to indicate your world, your vision exactly as you see it. But then once you hand over the script to a director and an artistic team, they can do with that as they will. But you as the playwright should be able to indicate the world of your play as you see it. And as far as dialogue, as you can see, I have the characters' names are capitalized and centered in the middle of the page, and their dialogue is written beneath. And here is showing how a scene in an act is indicated. So the act and what number the act is written in capital letters and underlined. And as you can see, the act number is written in Roman letters as opposed to just regular numbers. And the scene number is indicated in regular numbers, and the scene is written in lowercase letters. And at the top, as you can see, I have a musical cue indicated. So this is the format of how you should indicate a musical note if your script includes music. And in the dialogue, as you can see, I have an example of how a character's name should be written if the character isn't performing an action. So the Comprachicos, and then under his name it says to young Gwynplaine, which indicates that young Gwynplaine is in the scene and is being addressed, but his name isn't italicized because he's not the one performing the action. So if that makes sense, that's how you indicate which character is doing what. So if a character is performing the action, you don't italicize the name. If the character is the one who is receiving the action or is in some other way a passive part of the scene, then their name is italicized in the stage directions or in the dialogue. And this is how you format the last page of a script. Just simply write "end of show" in all capital letters and put it in the center of the page, and that will indicate that that's the end of the play. And as far as individual scenes go, you don't need to write "end of scene" at the end of each scene. You can simply start each new scene on a new page, and so that way, if a scene ends on one page, then the reader and the director will know that that's the end of that scene, and the next scene will simply start on the next page. And that was the format that I use for playwriting. And if it speaks to you, if it looks like the format you want to use, feel free to use it. And thank you for watching, and happy writing, and blessed be. Bye!